Convicted child molester Jeffrey Michael WATNE gets court privileges due to relations to Joel WATNE, who was the Assistant Attorney General at the time of Jeffrey Michael WATNE's conviction. Joel WATNE became the Assistant Attorney General January of 1999. Was current Assistant Attorney General during the time Jeffrey Michael WATNE was charged and convicted for molesting his own child. Jeffrey Michael WATNE was eligible for work release for a sentence of 365 days on work release for criminal sexual conduct for molesting his own child. Due to him getting work release, he had a problem. He was unable to leave state or cross state lines while on work release, while in the jail through Scott County. Jeffrey Michael WATNE, convicted child molester, gets privilege, writes a letter to the judge, Mary Threeson, the same judge that sentenced him, the same judge who used to be the Assistant Attorney General prior to Joel WATNE. My name is Jeff WATNE. I was in your court on 5/20/04 before you. I am presently serving time at the Annex. I am currently going to treatment, and it is going well. I have taken responsibility for my crime, and under the circumstances, things are going well. Shortly after I get here, I was approved for work release. My employer has been very understanding and is willing to keep me on. If I can get a problem worked out. Occasionally my job requires me to cross into Wisconsin. I do deliver gasoline to service stations. My caseworker told me that I needed your approval to cross state lines for work release. This is where I need your help. I have an outstanding work record, and other than my crime, I have lived a responsible life. I desperately want to keep my job. My kids are depending on me for support. Was your daughter dependent on you when you were molesting her? Were your kids really dependent on you when you were molesting them? What kind of support is that? And I'm responsible for paying for my treatment. I am trying to rebuild my life, and without my job, that will be all more difficult to do. My employer can't keep me if I can't make deliveries for him. Will you please help me? My truck is tracked via and GPS system and computer. My whereabouts are known at all times. And I only have to go to Wisconsin on an average of twice a week. And it's usually 50 to 100 miles at the most. If you have any questions, please call my caseworker or my cell phone. I hope all is going well for you, and thank you for your time and consideration. My supervisor's name is Chad Holler. His phone number is 608-793-6029. If you have any questions or need to verify anything, thank you. A convicted child molester, Jeffrey Michael WATNE, was supposed to be getting a 90-month sentence, but yet gets 365 days on work release. Gets approved for work release. Has a problem being on work release because apparently his employer can't keep him on because he's got to cross state lines. Scott County has a policy that anyone on work release is not supposed to cross state lines if they're on work release, which would make him unavailable for work release or not a candidate for it, correct? Judge Mary Threeson writes him back. I am receipt of your letter requesting permission to leave state during your work release at the annex. It is improper for you to contact me, ex parte. I am required to hear from both sides in the matter, such as these. Therefore, I will not consider your request at this time. Please contact your attorney. If you would like to file a motion before a judge to request permission to leave the state during your work release, if you no longer have an attorney, you may contact the prosecutor directly to see if they agree, or contact the court administration to schedule a motion before a judge. How often does a judge do something like that? Writes them back, tells them exactly what to do, gives them legal advice. A convicted child molester. Judge Mary Threeson says, I will copy this letter to the jail so that they know that I have approved your request effective July 10th. Unless they hear from me to the contrary, if Mr. Hogver does object, then this matter should be scheduled for a hearing before a judge. Scott County Attorney's Office. The state does object to Mr. WATNE being allowed to travel out of state of Minnesota, as he is currently serving a 1-year sentence under a stay of imprisonment. The guideline sentence is 90 months to the Department of Correction. He not only receives a non-prison commitment, he received it under a stay of imposition rather than a stay of execution. Your sentence states that he is entitled to work release if he is eligible. If he is not eligible, pursuant to the guidelines of the jail, to travel out of state for work release, he should not be allowed. Jail should have some inconvenience for the person convicted of the crime. The state does object to it. Judge already sent a note prior to that to the jail, already approving it. Papers were filed 2 days prior to the court date that they had on this motion. The defendant will be able to travel out of state while on work release, and for any other relief the court deems just as equitable. May travel to Wisconsin as necessary for work only. Must provide prior notice. Convicted child molester, Jeffrey Michael WATNE. Privilege. Never ever have I ever seen anything such despicable in my life, or I've even heard of anyone being able to do anything whatsoever like this, let alone someone convicted of molesting their own child. Convicted child molester, Jeffrey Michael WATNE. Shows clearly the privilege, the problems the court system has, the problems other people have to endure and go through. How many lives get damaged and destroyed in the wake of one convicted child molester for molesting his own child as he gets privilege, the wave effect of destruction that it causes. Was able to live with a minor child at the age of 5 years old that was not his child. Dakota County probation allowed it and let it go. Didn't do anything about protecting the kid. Didn't do no child mandate report. Didn't do anything, any precautions or whatsoever. Jeffrey Michael WATNE, convicted child molester, is still on probation until 2029. Still subject to polygraph test. Let's just polygraph him and get it over with. Let's make it show. But then, we can't do that because Dakota County probation was allowing him to live with a minor child. And let it go and did nothing about it, which would have never, ever should have been approved, allowed. Disturbing. Sick. Me as a father finding out about this, calling, questioning Dakota County courts, turned into criminal charges, and now jail time and probation due to the convicted child molester Jeffrey Michael WATNE and the privilege that he gets and seeks. And Dakota County courts fail to even acknowledge there's a problem when you put a convicted child molester around kids. Fail to do anything about it whatsoever. Shows clearly videos, pictures, everything with him and children. My child, allowing him in the same house, living and around. But then how can you violate when they allowed it and approved it and let it go anyways with no safety procedures in place? No child mandate report was done from 2008 to 2018. Convicted child molester Jeffrey Michael Watney, privilege due to being related to Joel Watney. Joel Watney, who was the Assistant Attorney General at the time of his conviction. Prior to Joel Watney being Assistant Attorney General, Mary J. Theisen was the Assistant Attorney General, who became a Scott County judge. Came in, took his case, took his plea, sentenced him, and closed the case all on the same day. Jeffrey Michael Watney, convicted child molester, privilege, no police department, South St. Paul Police Department, Lakeville Police Department, Hastings Police Department, Burnsville Police Department, all of them have straight Jeffrey Michael Watney's all court orders from every sentencing, every time something was changed during his court proceedings, and showed clearly he was not supposed to be around children. Motion to lift contact, no contact. He always been ordered no contact. Showed clearly every court order by a judge was not supposed to have contact. 3 months later, they buy a house. Christy Watney and Jeffrey Watney and my minor daughter, 5 years old, living there in the same house. 3 months after a judge orders no contact. How is a convicted child molester, Jeffrey Michael Watney, able to have contact, purchase a house with someone that has a minor kid, and to live in that same household? Same structure, same building as that minor child in Dakota County. Probation sees no problem, no concern, no issue. No child mandate report. But wait a whole another 10 years to do one once they move from South St. Paul to Burnsville. Every single police department, Burnsville, Lakeville, South St. Paul, Hastings, I sent them a copy of straight Jeffrey Michael Watney's court orders. Everyone states he was not supposed to have no contact. Judge never even ordered for appeal to be able to give consent for him to be around kids if they approved it. It was still a court order, no contact. How can South St. Paul, Lakeville, Burnsville, Hastings, every one of them police departments have a copy of these orders? How can the county attorney's office as well? And I got them stamped that they have them and received them, and they acknowledge that. So if there's any misunderstanding that they didn't know, weren't aware, that most definitely they do, because I gave them it, and I have stamped copies that they have them and they received them, like they always were aware of it. Same as Scott County. They failed to do anything about it. They failed to acknowledge it, even to get involved due to Dakota County being the ones overseeing his probation. How can South St. Paul, Lakeville, Burnsville, Hastings, each one of them police departments have straight physical fact, proof, evidence, court orders that this Jeffrey Michael Watney, convicted child molester, was not supposed to be around children, but was living in the same household and purchased a house with now his wife, which was my daughter's mom, to live, to buy, to purchase in both their names, and to have my minor child at the age of 5 years old living in that same house as him from 2008 to 2018. Showed clearly state facts, straight proof, fact. And even with the child mandate report they did in 2018, clearly state by Paula Pletch that he's been living in the same house with Kayla for 10 years. With the proof fact in hand to each one of them police departments, not one of them did anything about it. Solid, straight fact in their hand of a convicted child molester, Jeffrey Michael Watney, court orders not to be around kids, but was living in the same house, purchased a house with someone, and their minor child living in the same house from 2008 all the way to 2018. How can they not violate that? How could they allow it? How could they be accepting it? Because how do you violate a convicted child molester that's not supposed to be around kids, is around kids and living with them because probation officers allowed it and it let it go and accepted it? And how do you violate someone when they approved it and let it go when they were not supposed to ever? Negligence, that's gross negligence. child endangerment, no safety procedure in place, anything whatsoever at that time. Convicted child molester Jeffrey Michael Watney, privilege. South St. Paul, Lakeville, Burnsville, and Hastings, all police departments. You can hear my conversation with them. In Lakeville Police Department, officer says, "Oh, no, I don't need any of that. He didn't want it. He didn't want to see it because then he thought maybe he would have to do something if he had it or seen it and was aware of it. I sent it to him anyways. Called him, recorded my conversation with him, recorded it, and posted it on YouTube as well. Every single one of these police departments, recorded conversations, talking with them, every one of them has had it and has copies of it and acknowledge and still do nothing about it. How is Dakota County protecting children when they allow convicted child molesters like Jeffrey Michael Watney to roam the streets, not register on any sex offender registry list, not have to notify any schools of him being around or on their presence, allowed to just live and to purchase a house with someone and have their minor child in that same household? Jeffrey Michael Watney, convicted child molester. Dakota County courts fail to protect children. You're dealing with a child molester here. I find this extremely sickening and disturbing and dirty corruption. Convicted child molester Jeffrey Michael Watney.